Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming. My name is Holo and today I'm talking Shadow of the Erdtree. Straight to the point on this one. Where is the news or updates or teasers or anything to do with that DLC? It's been really quiet for a long time now, and even though, yeah, we did get that update to Elden Ring recently. What's going on? What do we actually know about the DLC? I want to have a little discussion about it all and talk about things that we do know, as well as some of the interesting rumors. But let's first begin with the most important thing. Why have we had nothing in regards to news for the DLC for so long? It's my opinion that we've not heard anything about Shadow of the Erdtree for a while because, yeah, they want to release and have just released Armored Core. They'll want all the attention on their current new release because that's where they're making money right now. It makes complete sense that they want to put all eyes on Armored Core. And that would be the case even if, say, they did have loads of information for Shadow of Erdtree and they want to tell us, like, they've got like a trailer or gameplay or whatever it is they plan to show us, a release date. All of that would have to be delayed until after the PR cycle of Armored Core has relatively finished. But you know, it's been a while and Armored Core is out now, so I do think whatever's next for FromSoft and announcements, it's going to be DLC, it's going to be Shadow of the Erdtree. But that's obviously not all I want to talk about today. I want to talk about things that we do know about the DLC and what's likely is a little discussion. Let's start with the big stuff. When will it release, do we think? Shadow of the Erdtree was finally revealed much earlier this year, like at the end of February. The teaser was letting us know that Elden Ring's DLC was officially in development, we got the title, and an image to look at. Of course, it was no surprise that Elden Ring DLC was in development, but to get a name and anything official to work with was obviously nice to have and speculate about. The surprise about the DLC most of all wasn't that it was coming, but it's taking a while. The history of DLCs for the Soulsborne series has been roughly 1 year on a fair average, with a few cases of it being a lot sooner than that or a little bit longer than that. In this case though, Shadow of the Erdtree had apparently started development very soon after the launch of Elden Ring. And now we're getting pretty close, very close to a 2-year wait for that DLC, so why? There could be many reasons, of course we're never going to really know, but I do think the size of Elden Ring has got to be a big part of it. Elden Ring itself is a massive game. I'm sure we all remember that incredible experience of you're exploring a big new area and a new region and the map just keeps zooming out and zooming out and zooming out. It was a huge game. And to follow up something like that with just like a small new region might be a bit like a disappointment after so long since the release. Imagine you wait 2 years and you just get like a small new area, one that's like roughly the size of Caelid and has 1 or maybe 2 legacy dungeons. It'd be a little bit small in relative size to the whole of Elden Ring. That would be actually completely fine if it released 9 to 12 months after Elden Ring came out, which is, yeah, again, getting towards a year ago from now. And again, it'd be fine if we knew we were going to get multiple DLCs for Elden Ring, meaning we'd get multiple new regions of that size eventually. But the scope of the Erdtree DLC is seemingly much bigger than normal. In all the teasers and references to this DLC, they keep calling it an expansion rather than DLC, and I do think that wording is important and could hint to the very size of it. We can back that up a little bit more thanks to Lance McDonald, who has been a very reliable source for years when it comes to all things From Software. I remember right before the reveal of Armored Core 6, Lance went live like a couple of days before playing an old Armored Core game, claiming it was just a coincidence, it was for no reason at all. Honestly, Lance has been on the mark many times, short-term and long-term, for From Software stuff, so he's a great person to follow if you are interested in this stuff. Anyway, according to Lance, Shadow of Erdtree will be a big expansion, roughly the size of 2 separate DLC packs. That would make sense to me. After this long wait, we would want something pretty big. With the size of Elden Ring itself, you'd want something that would compare to that. Not an entire map that's the same size of Elden Ring originally, but, you know, something that feels suitably big in that context. Lance also did say they had planned like a season pass for Elden Ring that would feature multiple small DLC packs, but that was dropped for the Shadow of Erdtree concept. While I have no idea if that's true, it sounds really weird, especially for From Software, so I'm glad we're not getting that. But I do like the idea that they had so many concepts and plans that it was all too much for just a small DLC. It makes me think of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and hearing so long ago that they had so many ideas for Breath of the Wild and its DLC that it ended up becoming a full sequel, though that was a rumor I heard a long time ago. Alright, what about another big topic though? How will we enter the DLC? What will the story focus on? I'll call back to Lance again for this, because not too long after the launch of Elden Ring, he found something really interesting. Lance discovered this unused questline which had unused items, NPCs, and this dream world that was heavily referenced in the full game. Many examples of that can be found, where it's referring often in combination with Saint Trina, who I believe to be Miquella disguised in his travels. Considering the strange nature of the Erdtree being wrapped around and almost being bled out by another, maybe that's Miquella's Tree, or maybe it's the Deathroot tree. Either way, I think the context of this image is that we're looking at kind of a dream world that is referenced somewhat in-game and has all this cut content and NPCs to do with the dream world that you would interact with that Lance found. So rather than the DLC being like a future or being in the past, I think alternative reality is the way. After all, we know Miquella was stolen from his cocoon within the Tree by Mohg, who fashioned a new cocoon for Miquella for his own purposes. That attempt did seem to work physically, with the body of Miquella being much larger than we'd ever seen him before, but also it was like drained, ashen, and very still, hardly seeming alive at all. It was Gideon who told us that Miquella slumbers in peace and we should leave him alone, so even then he was known to be alive somehow. A popular theory is that Miquella exists in that dream world then, a different plane of existence. I think it's possible we'll enter the DLC by going to that dream world. It would even make sense, with Mohg being an optional boss, that we would need to do that optional content, meaning defeat Mohg in the palace, and then enter the dream world via Miquella's cocoon and his current body. Maybe we'll go interact with that hand that's hanging out and be dragged into his head in dream world or something like that. Just look at Dark Souls 1 and its DLC, being suddenly dragged physically through a portal back in time by Manus, or Bloodborne, in which we went into this weird old hunter's dream involving major figures of long ago in the context of that world. Time travel is entirely possible, yeah, but I think it's more likely we'll go into a warped dream in this example, though this is all speculation on my part based on what we know so far. I am also interested to see if Miquella has anything to say about malenia in some form. Malenia and the whole, Tree is considered optional too, right? So I wonder what the official story is there in that regard. Maybe it'll be like the wolf, Sif, in Dark Souls 1. If you go do the DLC before meeting Sif in the original game, it'll change what happens when you meet him later in the real world, where he actually sniffs and recognizes you, and you'll have a slightly different cinematic play out, but the result is still the same boss fight. So maybe if you ignore the Tree versus go defeat malenia, there could be different consequences. That'd be cool. But finally, let's move on to the last topic I want to talk about. Will there be more DLC after this Shadow of Erdtree expansion? I think it's really hard to say, but here's what we know in that regard. It was Miyazaki himself in that acceptance speech when Elden Ring won Game of the Year. He said, "As for Elden Ring, we have several more things we want to do." What that means is hard to say, but it is obvious that the success of Elden Ring was massive. Still referred to as a major contributor in this year's Kadokawa financial report, who's the parent company of From Software. Within those various reports, it was made very clear that the support of Elden Ring was a priority, even more so than Armored Core it was referred to. Does this mean we'll get multiple big, maybe paid DLCs? You'd certainly think so. From Software has a history of multiple DLCs in their games, and it would make sense financially. They want to support a game that did so well to profit more from it. It makes sense. But this is also From Software we're talking about. If there was anyone that I could see refusing to produce more because they think the story in the world is just complete, it's them. So it could go either way. What's really cool about the way From Software has done DLC in the past is the really clever way they've never messed with the original story and its endings in a dramatic way. For example, with Dark Souls 1, we went back in time, didn't we? So that would drastically change the events of the future, would you not think? Except in the past, in that world, there was a great hero named Artorias who defeated Manus and basically stopped and defeated the Abyss. Only apparently that was never true. Artorias did go to the Abyss, he did fight Manus, but he was defeated and corrupted and basically turned mad. When we go back in time, we find the reality is Artorias is mad and we have to defeat him. Then, ultimately, we go defeat Manus ourselves. So it turns out, Manus was always defeated by an unnamed hero, you, but history claimed it was Artorias, so nothing really changed in the future events at all when you went back to do the thing that always happened. Very clever, right? And a theme with From Software with this stuff. So whatever happens with Shadow of the Erdtree, I still don't think it'll actually affect the main events of the original Elden Ring story. But yeah, I know that was quite a few different topics to think about, but it has been a while since I've had the chance to really think or talk about this type of thing in a video. I always really enjoy the speculation and the discussion, so let me know what you think about any of it. Either way, I hope we don't have to wait too much longer now for new information since Armored Core is finally released. For now though, I've been Hollow, you've been you, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.